To our top story now, and Phillip Schofield has admitted he is broken and ashamed of his professional conduct when speaking with the Sun newspaper yesterday. But he says he is not a groomer.
Yeah, the former This Morning presenter gave an interview to the BBC last night as well, and he had this to say.
What was unwise was the fact that it happened. And that was a very, very grave error. Now, it was consensual, but it was my fault.
And there is going to be the full interview out this morning, which we will be able to bring a little bit to you on GB News. But we're joined now by GB News reporter Ray Addison. Good morning to you, Ray. So we've got the Sun exclusive interview. I'm broken and ashamed, but not a groomer. We've got a television interview coming a little bit later. Phillip Schofield does not want to go quietly, does he?
Yeah, this is the start of his attempt to reclaim the narrative, although how successful this is going to be very much remains to be seen. The interview with the Sun stressing he hasn't been paid for that interview at this stage. And, of course, it's his first opportunity, really, to get his thoughts out there.
And, you know, I've worked in the newspaper industry for a long time. I've been an editor for a long time, and I've got to say that this piece... it's a very flattering article for Mr. Schofield. He talks about how if it wasn't for my girls, I wouldn't be here, intimating about suicide. I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I've been drinking a lot of Southern Comfort, a lot of vaping, ashen face. Do you think the public will go for this, or does it feel like he's just trying to steal the narrative?
No, I don't think the public will arguably go for it. I think it feels a little bit like he's looking for sympathy, and I think that's very difficult to give to somebody who's had such a long and successful career in the media industry. Of course, add to that his age. He's 61 years old. You know, he's been doing one of the top jobs in television for the last 20 years. And then add to that the fact that this relationship was with a young man, you know, in a very junior position. And I think it's going to be difficult to try and make yourself out to be the victim in that circumstance.
How damaging do you think this is to the This Morning brand? Because it is that wholesome family show, isn't it? It's meant to be warm and inclusive and a very kind of atmosphere. And it comes as ITV execs are set to face questioning from MPs as well. So this could be a very challenging time now for ITV. Yeah,
I mean, it's, you know, it's not the first time that ITV, or rather This Morning, has faced sort of scandal on the programme. Of course, you know, if you look back a couple of decades, you know, we remember some of the revelations that came out then. And it's going to be very, very difficult. Now, I mean, you know, no show can go on forever. And if a brand becomes toxic, that word again, toxic, we've heard that, toxic atmosphere allegedly on the set of This Morning. I think it could be very, very difficult. And, of course, when bosses appear in front of MPs, it depends very much on what comes out. I think that's very interesting as well, that the timing of this announcement that they've launched a barrister's inquiry. And I'm wondering whether it gives ITV execs an opportunity to sit in front of those MPs and say, I can't comment on an active investigation, that line that we hear so often from MPs themselves, and whether they're hoping that that might be a way of deflecting at this time.
I want to go back to this Sun story, if you can see that there. So that's the front page of the Sun. So Schofield is really kind of going to town. And he talks here, interestingly, about how Schofield's lawyers approached the Sun. So this wasn't the Sun, you know, haranguing for an interview. This is a voluntary submission, if you like, to make sure that the narrative is seized. And there's some real interesting stuff here. He talks about how social media abuse towards him has been deeply homophobic. This is now a witch hunt. It continues and continues. Do they not know there is a human being at the end of this? Do they actually want me to die? Is that their end game? So this is him really getting on a front foot and trying to place himself, if you like, as the victim here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm sure he is absolutely devastated. You know, anybody who's become the focus of this kind of story would be upset by it. However, the reaction of the public remains to be seen. From the perspective of those watching at home, again, I reiterate, he is a very powerful man, or has been up till now. He's had a very successful career. He's been a part of people's lives. However, he wasn't ultimately how he presented himself to be. And, of course, you know, to go on television every day and talk about issues of family and morality and to give your own views on that, and then to have this kind of story exposed, it's very interesting then to try and flip that around.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have a very defiant Holly Willoughby on the front page of the Mirror this morning. Let me just grab that for you. She's in Portugal currently with her family. She's got a very nice house there. So she's been there throughout the half-term break. She is, according to reports, meant to be back on Monday.
Yes, and the timing of that is questionable. I wonder whether she's getting the best advice there from her representatives. Obviously, she'll be back on Monday. Presumably, she'll make some kind of statement at that point. However, we then have that committee sitting with the MPs and the ITV executives the following Tuesday week. And so I wonder if it's just too early for her, whether she'll have to make one statement and then have to react to whatever comes out of that committee.
Yeah, and what's going to be interesting next, of course, Ray, is who speaks next. Also on the front of the Daily Mail today, I don't know if you can see that, but it's intimating that Phillip Schofield's wife is devastated and furious about that. They haven't got an interview with the wife yet, but I suspect that may come. And the big one, of course, is what about the young lad? If he talks, we haven't heard from him yet. He's gone into hiding or he's been whatever. He hasn't spoken. This story is going to run and run. This is not over.
We're told that this young man doesn't want to, talk at this stage. I suggest that will change very, very quickly over time, although that remains to be seen. One thing that I did think was interesting from the Sun interview was Schofield revealing that he had paid for this young man's lawyers, independent lawyers, so not Schofield's lawyers, but independent, to assist him and give him some advice. Obviously, because there's concerns and allegations of this word grooming that's come up, obviously Schofield has very clearly denied that. But then when you consider that he has and admits to having helped to pay for those lawyers, is there still an element of control taking place between that relationship and that power dynamic? And that's something that people will be no doubt speculating on and reacting to.
We had Carol McGiffin speaking to Dan Wootton last night. More revelations coming out. She spoke about how strange it was that this young runner turned up, she said, at Loose Women. Tell us your response to that interview last night.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. I mean, the thing that strikes me the most about this young runner and his placement within the programme, if you look on social media, and obviously we can't name this young man, but a cursory glance through social media and you can see that he was a very sort of big part of the show. He seemed to be brought on screen quite a lot. We've seen, shots where he's sort of downing shots of whiskey, shots where he's having sun cream put on him. It seems like he was quite a big part of the crew. And then, of course, he's there at the National Television Awards on stage as well. And we saw Dan Wootton's producer questioning an ITV This Morning boss, saying, why was he on there? How did he manage to get on there when sometimes it's even hard for producers to get on the stage when they accept a television award? And so I think there's a lot more to be asked about that. And the idea that people at ITV were not aware of this kind of relationship, people might find increasingly hard to believe.
And that's as you say, Ray, we're going to find out more, we're sure, Tuesday week. Thank you very much.